When Trust Shatters. A story of betrayal and unraveling secrets. Trust is the foundation of any relationship, but what remains when that foundation crumbles? This is the story of Mark, a man whose seemingly perfect life unraveled when he uncovered the ultimate betrayal. But betrayal was just the beginning. Join us as this tale twists and turns, revealing layers of secrets, heartbreak, and unexpected revelations. Mark and Sarah appear to have it all: a picture-perfect marriage, 2 beautiful children, and a life of stability and comfort. Mark's career as a high-powered investment banker provided financial security, allowing Sarah to focus on raising their children, Emma and Liam. Their elegant suburban home, with its manicured lawn and walls adorned with family photos, symbolized their success and unity. Yet, behind closed doors, their marriage was fraying at the seams. The slow decline. Mark's demanding job consumed him. Late nights, business trips, and relentless stress left him emotionally absent. He justified his sacrifices as being for their family's future, but in doing so, he unknowingly distanced himself from Sarah. Meanwhile, Sarah, though a devoted mother, felt suffocated by the monotony of domestic life. The spark of excitement and intimacy that had once defined their relationship was now a distant memory. Conversations between them had become transactional, filled with discussions of schedules and logistics rather than dreams or desires. Affection was scarce, and Sarah found herself scrolling through social media late at night, envying the carefree lives of others. Her closest friend, Lisa, encouraged her to embrace change. "You deserve to rediscover yourself, Sarah," Lisa would often say. At first, Sarah dismissed the idea, but over time, the allure of something new grew irresistible. The text that changed everything. One evening, as Mark prepared dinner while Sarah showered, her phone buzzed on the counter. Without thinking, Mark glanced at the screen. The message preview read, "Don't forget Saturday, it's going to be wild." A knot formed in Mark's stomach. Curious, he unlocked the phone using Sarah's familiar passcode. What he found left him shaken: a long exchange between Sarah and Lisa describing an upcoming event. But this wasn't an innocent gathering. It was a key party, a discreet event where couples swapped partners for a night of uninhibited intimacy. Mark's heart pounded as he reread the messages, hoping he had misunderstood. But the flirtatious banter and explicit details left no room for doubt. The realization that Sarah had hidden this from him felt like a knife to the chest. A suspicious Saturday night. As the week wore on, Mark couldn't ignore the shift in Sarah's behavior. She guarded her phone closely, laughed a little too loudly at her messages, and often excused herself to take private calls. When Saturday arrived, she announced plans for a girls' night. Dressed in a sleek black dress Mark hadn't seen in years, paired with bold red lipstick, Sarah looked radiant, but unfamiliar. "Girls' night?" Mark asked casually, his voice betraying none of his suspicions. "Yes, just dinner and drinks," Sarah replied lightly before leaving. Mark's instincts screamed otherwise. Grabbing his car keys, he decided to follow her. The betrayal unveiled. Sarah's car led Mark to an upscale neighborhood. She pulled into the driveway of a sprawling mansion, its windows aglow with laughter and music. Parking a few houses away, Mark approached on foot, careful to stay hidden. Through the grand bay windows, he saw elegantly dressed couples mingling, their smiles illuminated by the crystal chandelier above. At the center of the room stood a crystal bowl filled with car keys. Mark's worst fears were confirmed. This wasn't a harmless party, it was a betrayal in progress. Without hesitation, he stormed into the house. The room fell silent as his presence cut through the laughter like a knife. "Mark?" Sarah gasped, her face paling as she rushed toward him. "What are you doing here?" she stammered. "The real question is, what the hell are you doing here?" he shot back, his voice echoing. Sarah opened her mouth to explain, but Mark wasn't finished. "This is what you've been hiding? Throwing away everything we've built for this?" He gestured toward the stunned crowd. One of the attendees, a man in his 40s, stepped forward. "Look, this isn't the place." "Stay out of it," Mark snapped. "All of you, playing games with your marriages and calling it normal. It's pathetic." Without waiting for Sarah's response, Mark turned and left, slamming the door behind him. The hidden truths. In the days that followed, Mark's anger gave way to curiosity. Sarah's reaction during the confrontation had been unexpected, almost relieved, as if she had been waiting for everything to fall apart. Unable to shake his suspicions, Mark searched through her emails one evening while she was out. What he found deepened the wound, a correspondence with someone named David. The messages were vague but unmistakably intimate, filled with phrases like, "I can't wait to see you again," and "Mark will never know." When Sarah returned home, Mark confronted her. At first, she denied everything, but under his relentless questioning, she broke down. "It's not what you think," she insisted. "Then what is it?" Mark demanded. Through tears, Sarah confessed that David was a former colleague she had reconnected with at a reunion. Though they hadn't been physically involved, their connection had evolved into an emotional affair. Sarah admitted to sharing her frustrations about Mark and fantasizing about a life with someone who made her feel seen and desired. A marriage at the crossroads. Mark was left reeling, not just from the betrayal but from the realization of how far they had drifted apart. The path forward was uncertain, fraught with anger, pain, and questions about whether trust could ever be rebuilt. As Mark grappled with the shattering of his world, one question lingered. When trust is broken, can anything truly remain? The depths of betrayal. Mark's journey from heartbreak to healing. The key party was only the beginning. Mark stood in the aftermath of Sarah's betrayal, his pain deepening with each passing revelation. "So, the party was just the tip of the iceberg," he muttered bitterly to himself. Yet, even in the darkest times, life has a way of sending unexpected allies. Claire, the widowed psychologist next door, had always been kind but never overly involved in their lives. One evening, noticing Mark sitting alone on his porch, his face a portrait of anguish, she approached him with a warm cup of tea and an open heart. A confidant in the storm. Over the weeks that followed, Claire became more than a neighbor. She became a confidant. With her calming presence and years of wisdom, she helped Mark begin to untangle the complex web of his emotions. "Betrayal doesn't happen in a vacuum," Claire said one evening as they sat beneath the soft glow of porch lights. "You've been carrying the weight of your family on your shoulders, but have you stopped to consider what you might have missed along the way?" At first, Mark resisted her words, anger shielding him from self-reflection. But gradually, her insights began to resonate. He realized that while his neglect had never excused Sarah's actions, it had created a void in their marriage. A void Sarah had chosen to fill in destructive ways. Claire's gentle guidance didn't absolve Sarah, but it helped Mark shift his focus. Revenge began to lose its appeal, replaced by the desire to heal, for himself and for his children. The park and the plea. Unable to bear the silence any longer, Sarah reached out to Mark, asking him to meet her at the park where they had once taken their kids on sunny afternoons. It was a place filled with memories of happier times. "Mark," she began, her voice trembling as she faced him. "I know I've hurt you, and there's no excuse for what I've done. But I need you to understand where I was coming from." With tears streaming down her face, Sarah confessed the loneliness that had consumed her for years. She spoke of how Mark's long hours and emotional absence had left her feeling like a shadow in her own home. She admitted her guilt, acknowledging that instead of seeking solace in betrayal, she should have communicated her feelings. "I was afraid," Sarah said, her voice cracking. "Afraid you'd see me as a burden, or worse, that you wouldn't care. I never wanted to hurt you. I just wanted to feel alive again." Mark listened in silence, her words hitting like waves. They struck a chord, but they couldn't erase the pain. "Feeling neglected doesn't justify what you did," he said firmly. "You had a choice, Sarah, and you chose betrayal instead of trying to fix what was broken." Sarah nodded, her tears falling freely. "I know," she whispered. "I'm sorry." A choice between revenge and restraint. In the days that followed, Mark wrestled with a difficult decision: whether to expose the scandal of the key party to the public. On one hand, he felt the participants deserved to face the consequences of their actions. On the other, he feared the impact such exposure would have on his children if the scandal spiraled out of control. Claire's voice lingered in his mind. Revenge can feel satisfying in the moment, but it rarely brings true closure. After much deliberation, Mark found a middle ground. He anonymously tipped off a journalist but withheld key details that could directly implicate Sarah. He wanted the truth to come out, but not at the expense of his children's peace. The story exploded in the media, sending shockwaves through their community. Prominent figures were exposed, marriages crumbled, and the hidden world of suburban decadence was laid bare. While Sarah faced harsh judgment and social ostracism, Mark focused on creating a haven of stability for Emma and Liam. The long road to healing. Mark's path to healing was anything but linear. There were moments of anger, waves of sadness, and days when doubt clouded his resolve. But Claire's steadfast support, combined with his love for his children, gave him strength. He began journaling, meditating, and attending a support group for those recovering from infidelity. Slowly, the shards of his broken world began to piece themselves back together. Sarah, too, sought therapy. She wanted to understand her actions and rebuild herself as a better person and parent. Though reconciliation was off the table, Mark and Sarah worked hard to co-parent with mutual respect. A new chapter. Years later, Mark stood in his new home, a modest but cozy townhouse filled with warmth and laughter. The walls were lined with his children's drawings and photographs of family vacations. He had rediscovered passions long forgotten, rebuilt his relationships with Emma and Liam, and even found himself cautiously venturing into the world of dating. Sarah had remarried, and though they rarely spoke, Mark harbored no ill will toward her. The betrayal that had once defined his life was now a distant memory, a chapter he had closed. Betrayal may have shattered his world, but it didn't define his future. Mark's story is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the possibility of healing, even after the deepest wounds. What would you have done in his shoes? Share your thoughts, and don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories of redemption, resilience, and transformation.